Okay, Viper's videos back out in the barn, and today is a real interesting day because as usual I always have to mention the weather, and it is one hellish, early September. We have about 90 degrees and again one of those near 70 dew points, and the wind is it's like apocalyptic conditions. You've got all this hot air, which is probably better to have some wind than none, but in any case it's very hellish. Which is interesting because here we have something called a Hellraiser Hellboy M4 style CO2 rifle, caliber 177. I do a lot of pistols. I haven't done many rifles, and when I do, they're usually either break barrels or PCPs. But this time I thought I'd give a try to this CO2 version of the, I guess it's M4 AR-15 style platform. This is another one of those toys that I just had to have when I was recovering from surgery somewhere a year ago, but over 6 months ago, but under a year. I can't remember. Pyramid Air was so nice to send one of those offers where if you bundle, you get 2 magazines, a bunch of CO2s, BBs and the whole works for right around the same price as the gun was prior to that. This isn't exactly stock, even though this is a first look and first shots. I think I was playing with it in the house and threw on a scope, and I have a fake suppressor here somewhere and a sling. So it's not quite in the stock condition you'll see on the box, but we'll get into that. So in any case, this is a CO2 powered 177 caliber, 18 rounds, feet per second they list at 495, and kind of my standard fare this summer because it's been so hot is I'm not actually going to cranny it. I've seen online these things are shooting, depending on the location, overseas, America, wherever. Temperatures in the 70s, they seem to be in the low to mid 4s, and when you start hitting the upper 70s, 80s, 90s, they're pushing 500 feet per second plus. So it replicates the AR-15 or M4 quite well. I understand you can take off the flash hider. Actually, it is a left-hand thread, counterclockwise, reverse, however you want to say it. So if you didn't want to just change out the flash hider, you can actually take off this whole barrel, and then I understand this is to be 14 millimeter counterclockwise, reverse, left-hand thread, however you want to put it. Has the lug, the replica lug bayonet with the front sight assembly. The handguard foregrip, I understand, is interchangeable with other AR-styled accessories. This delta ring, or mock delta ring, actually moves so you can take the handguard off. The safety system says safe, semi, and auto, but unfortunately semi and auto are actually the same. It's a semi-automatic each time you pull the trigger. This is kind of a nice replica touch. It doesn't do anything. The forward assist works as far as a springy mechanism, but there's really nothing to it. Your charging handle will release the dust cover door, which is kind of cool, but it doesn't really do anything. It's just a little, again, a springy lever, but for effect it's very nice. You have an AR style grip, but it's not interchangeable with any AR. I think this is actually physically larger. It doesn't fit anything else. I don't know if this is a 6 position. Let me see. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 6 position adjustable buttstock, and I understand you can take this off. That's aluminum, so I'm sure it's either mil spec or whatever. And so you could put on whatever style you want. It came originally with a carry handle, rear sight assembly that was adjustable for windage and elevation. Oddly, the only thing thus far I can gripe about this is when I took this out of the box, that was actually loose. And then I had assumed it just needed to be tightened, but it was more than that. The Picatinny rail is within spec, but the clamping mechanism is machined off. It's just a little bit larger and it doesn't quite clamp tight. So a piece of tape fixed that completely, but in case yours is like that, you probably would like to know. You're not the only one. I found no one else that mentioned it. I reported it to Air Venturi. They said you can fill stuff out, but you know, no big deal. I don't care. I stuck some red dot that I had on here, or excuse me, that I owned for probably, oh my God, well over 20 years. And it's got a little 2-power that goes in the objective lens internal threading. But that's kind of a cool little thing. And I also had added a sling. So what else can I tell you? Oh yeah, as far as the mods or upgrades, what I was saying about you can either change out the flash hider or like the whole barrel. I'm going to put on a suppressor that you've seen from my Umarex SA10. Got the 14mm reverse threads, counterclockwise, left hand, we can call it however we like it. Okay, so, and that's how that looks on there. So it's a little bit nicer looking than just the pencil barrel sticking out with the flash hider bird cage. So I think I will get rid of this box. Okay, so back to the gun. It turns out that all the activity as far as the valving and the CO2, it all loads into this magazine. So the magazine seems to be the magic player in all this. So to get that whole assembly out of here, you got to push this little button and just kind of lift the assembly out so you have an outer magazine body, and then the inner magazine guts is what houses the CO2, and then the BBs ride right in here. So this is like the whole guts of everything. The BBs are in here, CO2, and then just fires right into the barrel, I assume from right there. So it's kind of interesting. But I have not fired this yet, so I think we're going to give that a try. Let me see if I've covered everything about this. Yeah, I really think I have. It's mostly metal with the exception of the handguard, which you could get a metal handguard, the ones with Picatinny rails and so on, the quad rails, dual rails, whatever you like, usually skeletonized. So the lower is nice aluminum, the upper is aluminum, the tube is aluminum, so you got a plastic buttstock, you have plastic handguard at this time, and plastic grip. Otherwise everything is metal, which is pretty dang cool. Alright, so my choice in BBs today is going to be made by the same, well, not made by the same company, but offered by the same company, Air Venturi. So, let's see how we do that. Looks like you have a little lever notchy thing that you can pull the spring down and latch it to the side. So yeah, that was a difficult task. Having that nerve damage from the herniated disc some years back, boy, that whole thing of trying to be accurate, dropping those in and flipping it, just, yeah, that didn't work real well. And the magazine is kind of oily. I did wipe it down, but for some reason it's still oily. So that was more difficult for me than I would like to admit, but it's just what it is. So some of you might find it easier, some might find it more difficult, but yeah. And of course the CO2 just goes in, you have a little, they supply you with a proper hex head, don't over tighten it, you know, put a drop oil in, whatever. And this goes back. Some people might just try to force it. I like to push this little pin to help it. There you go. And now that should be good to load up and shoot. So we will see that up. locked in place. Oh yeah, the magazine release is just like on the real McCoy here. You push that button. I'm doing this upside down, but forgive me. And it mostly drops free, but I got it upside down for the camera and so on. But there you go. I'll put that on, it's already on safe. Point it out of the way. And I will go down yonder and get a target set up and camera, and I'll be back. Okay, so I'm trying diligently hard to try to get as much in the frame as I can, but I'll do my best. So, got my red dot on, which I have no idea if it's sighted in, but we'll give it our best. And okay, safety off. It didn't sound good, did it? Well, okay, Viper's videos back. You might say, what is this, a second video? Actually, it is. As you just saw, I had like, well, if I'm going to call it a catastrophic failure, what I mean by catastrophic is it was beyond my ability to just correct it right in the moment, and I was kind of stuck with something that wasn't working, not quite understanding what was wrong. And as you saw, I got all loaded up, ready to shoot, and I got and it was like, wow, that was really weird. So it's a week later than what you just saw, that failure. And the only good news about it being a week later is that it's like 80 degrees instead of near 90, and much more comfortable. So as you saw, that near catastrophic failure that I right away thought I had done something wrong, turned out to be a major problem with not only that main magazine that went, and then I tried shooting it again, whatever I had to do, reinserting the magazine. I just went back to the basics, and I just kept getting these sounds like the air was trying to go through, but there just was nothing. So I pushed a BB into the barrel that I had to get out. Then after fiddling a little bit with reloading and just going back to basics, a BB came out and went maybe about 20 feet and so on. So I went and got the second magazine. The one that was shipped with part of that deal. And that was exactly the same. So I thought, okay, Viper, what is wrong with you? What are you doing wrong? So I was hot, sweaty, kind of crabby at that point. Still not sure it wasn't my fault, but not 100% sure it was anymore. But what are the chances to two magazines being bad? So I realized just how much I didn't know about this gun. So yeah, la-di-da-di, you-di-do, let's just put a bunch of accessories on it. You notice the sling is gone. That ended up being a real hassle holding the lower to the upper when I was trying to work on it, but that's a different story. So, word to the wise, don't accessorize before you shoot, because you can't always guarantee something's going to work. Alright, so anyway, so I went back in the house, I watched some more YouTube videos on it, I read up as much information other people published, by the way, thanks to some folks out there. You do some pretty good videos explaining how these things work and what it is. But the only way I was really going to find out is if I started taking care of it myself. So the first thing that I did, trying to understand this, figuring maybe it felt kind of weird. I'll be honest, the trigger felt kind of like spongy, like it wasn't doing very much. So I thought, well, I wonder, I don't even know how this stupid thing works. So I was, I got to figure this out. So obviously I had to learn to take it apart. So what I did was you've got this rear pin and this front pin, but the front pin is the one you want to take out. So you kind of you get something like a punch to punch it through just a little bit, and hopefully you can take it off with you. So some folks, and there's a little detent or a little catch ball or something, but once you pop that pin, hopefully this just separates like it's supposed to. Okay, so the upper boss drilled out part there that goes into these wings and the lower receiver, that is really super tight, at least on mine. Holy criminy, that is just super tight. So that's a good thing. However, it's not good when you have to go in when you wish you didn't have to. So let's see. Let me get this off to the side on my little tiny shooting table, because this isn't really I don't work on stuff here, but okay, so I'm not sure how good you guys are going to be able to see this. I'm going to do my best. So what I learned by taking all this stuff apart is that the actual firing mechanism is all in the magazine. Like, I mean, everything but the trigger, and I guess you'd call this a sear in the trigger. But this magazine, you take it apart, you got the outer shell, and you have this. This is, in my opinion, like a gun without the trigger. But in fact, it has a hammer. So I had no idea how this worked. I should have thought it through before. But a person wants to buy this stuff and just have a good time. You don't really want to sit there and become a freaking expert with every little junky BB gun you buy. Oh, did I say junky? That's probably just because I was crabby about it. All right, so what I ended up finding out is that this lower here, the only thing it really does is it has well, of course it holds the magazine and the fire control unit, which butts up to the barrel and such, but the actual only function of this, mechanical function, is that you've got your trigger, and this gizmo there's like I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little arm. Boy, I wish I had better lighting. I'm so sorry, you guys. But there's a little arm. All that really happens is this, when you pull this trigger, there is a little arm that goes forward. That's it. It goes forward. And that's it. It doesn't click, it doesn't snap, there's no disconnect or sear. Well, actually, I think that is the sear. There's just no real trigger action like snapping, cracking, coming off of the hammer. But what is happening is that little lever, oh goodness, kind of tight here. That little lever is hitting on this little ledge of the magazine right here. And in fact, the way I understand this, this would be the hammer, okay? So in this assembly, that trigger would push right here, and when it does, it pushes in, and then when it lets go, hear that little snap? That's it, that's the hammer action. And what's happening is this lever has a pin right here where it's kind of the leverage, fulcrum, all that kind of seesaw stuff. And the top of this hammer gizmo, there is a little valve pin right in here. And instead of being on the back like a pistol, this hammer hits down there and releases air out the front, and here's your BB tube, and it just pushes the BBs right out the front there. And this, of course, is sealed on a little rubber thing inside the upper, which would be the barrel. So this is actually like a little gun without a barrel. The little barrel here would be just like this little frickin', I don't know, quarter-inch of whatever holding the BBs. You got your hammer. The sear would be in the trigger that just pushes on this lever, pushes on the lever, and yeah, and that's what makes it fire. So the CO2 goes in here, it's being held captive. This hammer gets kind of snapped, which the top of it then pushes on a valve with a series of springs. So the main spring is underneath this lever right about in there. And so depending on how this is assembled is going to be how efficient, functional, or defective this mini gun / magazine actually is. So now that I've bored you with how this works, you might say, well, what the hell did you do to get it to work? Well, what I ended up doing was, after I finally learned how this works, I realized, oh my God, you hear this? It didn't do that. It like stopped, it was sludgy, it didn't do anything. So after learning about this, I very carefully and nervously punched out some pins here, and just realizing it's just a little bit of an assembly with this spring, and I don't even know what the devil that does. It holds this goofy thing at an angle. It's probably an engineering marvel. I have no idea, but to me it's a pain in the rear end. So you've got your spring here that holds it pushes on the tension. So obviously if that spring was just cranking, you'd have a heavy trigger, but boy, you'd have a hell of a, it would really hit that pin on the top and let some gas loose in the valve. And then this other return spring for, I have no idea. But anyway, God, I'm boring you guys as always. So I punched out a couple of these things to get this out, and I cleaned off burrs and sludge and crap. You don't even know what it was. I didn't even know what it was. And that made everything work. Oh my God, it's just so much smoother. It was grindy, gritty. It didn't even really move, to be honest with you. That spring was so full of crud in there. I don't even know how it acted like a spring. And the valve was also kind of glitchy. So what I did was I took, there's even still stuff falling on the desk. There's just, man, these are really poorly made. I'm gonna say it, they're poorly freaking made. But, you know, so what I did was completely took that all apart, and I lubricated all the joints and springs with, you know, not silicone oil, and not, you know, I used, actually I just used 3-in-1 oil I've been using for over 50 years, so before anyone says, oh, you need this, that, or the other, it's just metal on metal, I'm good. But I took some silicone oil from RWS, and I took a little syringe, and where the heck am I? And I put just a little bit in there, kind of like when we put it on the top of the CO2 cartridge. So I put, I don't even know how much, like 2 drops inside of the, right in the little valve thing that the CO2 goes into. And then in this little valve pin area, I took that same syringe and put a couple drops, and I made it go up and down. And then I put a brand new CO2 in it, and I just went to freaking town, and bam, 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 bam. I went through a whole CO2, I don't know, like 45 times. Maybe that was a psychotic thing to do, but I was just so frustrated I was gonna get this thing to work one way or the other. So, frankly, after that, it worked. So I was pretty happy about that, and then I did the same thing to this other magazine, which had the exact same symptoms. Oh my gosh, it's just smooth as butter. It works, it's lubricated. Now, that was a week ago. I did that the very night that I was so hot and sweaty and crabby. So I haven't done anything with these since. So I have no idea how they are or aren't going to work, but I just wanted to let you know, after that horrible failure, that it turned out not to be my fault. It had nothing to do with my inability to work this gun, to know how to use it. It just had to do with, believe it or not, both magazines were completely screwed. So when I see these reviews on Airgun Depot, Amazon, Pyramid Air, where people are talking about the quality of this particular rifle is hit and miss due to the magazines. You get a good one, you get a bad one. Well, I'm not even sure that these folks have gotten a bad magazine, with the exception of it's bad because it's all grunged up and screwed up. Maybe they just ended up getting these cruddy magazines and they don't know how to fix them. And you shouldn't have to know how to fix it. It should come clean, ungrungy, that spring should be uninhibited, tolerances should be right, etc. So now that everybody was so nice to listen to me yammer on about how to maybe possibly fix your magazine problem if this is what happens, I'm going to go off camera now and put in some CO2 and load these up. Unfortunately, I really have a hard time loading these things. I'm sure somebody will get on there telling me an easier way in the comments, but the reality is it's just not easy for me. I'm not a real fan of it. But that is no deficit to the gun. That's not a slam. That's just my inability to load this easily, funly, enjoyably. So, anyway, let me do that and we'll get back and shoot it. Okay, so I am ready to go. I am back 30 feet, 10 yards. As usual, target down there, I've got a camera on the target. Magazine has been loaded with CO2 and 17 or 18 BBs. I kind of lost count. I'm thinking it's more like 17, but it doesn't matter. I am going to insert that into the magazine well. Make sure it's locked in good and tight. Got it on safe. So as I was telling you, as I squeeze this trigger here, there's just a little bar. Let me get that. There's a little bar that's going to push on that hammer lever assembly, and then there's a spring behind it that as that lever snaps off of it, the lever hammer slams onto a pin valve system on top that then shoots the air here, and the front of the magazine here is connecting to a little rubber seal, and then here's the barrel. So this is how this works. So I don't know if this is going to work or not, but I'm sure hoping it is. So let's give it a shot, and I guess you can wish me luck or not. Got to turn my red dot on. I'm not even sure if it's sighted in. We'll do our best here. See what we can do. Trigger is just a tad spongy because it's really just pushing on a lever. So you know what's weird is your trigger pull is going to, and trigger pull weight will be decided by how heavy and gritty the spring is in the magazine. So each magazine is like its own little gun. So let's hope this works. Hey, it worked. And it shot again. I can see, because I've got that kind of splatter target, it looks like it's actually grouping pretty good from back here. And this is working, so how about that action? We should... Well, it looks like it's grouping real nice. And we'll go down and check. Put on safe. Wow, that really grouped in there really nice. I could kind of tell that that was, I heard a couple of them that sounded a little bit weak, and I'll bet you that was these two. The rest of these are pretty much right in line with what you'd want. So I think I'll try the other magazine over here. We'll give this a shot and see how that goes. That did not do too bad. So I don't know that even though I fixed my problem with these magazines, I still don't know that this, these magazines are even that good. Obviously, I think time will tell. So it did work, it's grouped. But here, let's try the other magazine on the other target and see what happens. And let us load up our locked in, unsafe. Okay, works. The sound of the target is different because this is the metal one that catches them in the bottom. Yeah. And we're going to call that good, because otherwise you guys are going to say, God dang it, get done with the video already. All right, let's go check that one out. Okay, it looks like I shot a few more rounds. So hey, not too bad. Okay, well you just saw by that target, it actually did pretty good. So I think that the spring situation in this lever is just a little bit tighter. So I'm going to guess that the spring is just a little bit heavier, or the angle or something, and so it gives a little bit more positive ignition on the top of that pin. So again, each one of these that fires, I better not, there's a BB in it, but when that snaps, each one of these are going to have a different trigger pull because the trigger pushes on this, which is the spring. So you could have 10 magazines with 10 different trigger pull weights. And that means you're going to have different feet per second. Everything will be different with each magazine. Personally, my opinion, and it's worth nothing, but to me, I don't like that. I find that kind of suspect, but that's just me. The fact that this particular gun came with a top carry handle sight assembly that did not fit tight on here, it rattled. Yeah, I could fix it with tape, but why? The fact that both magazines, you guys even saw it, you know, right on my video, failed, and then I explained how I cleaned them and fixed them. Shouldn't have to do that. I'm grateful that I was able to figure it out, believe me, because otherwise this would be just a wall hanger and, you know, I wouldn't have much else I could do with it. But the positives on this is that it is a very, very realistic feeling AR-15 M4, whatever you want to say, platform. You can accessorize it with different buttstocks, with different foregrip, handguard assemblies. You can change up the flash hider and or even take off part of the front barrel assembly and put on a fake suppressor. So there is a lot of aesthetic functionality with this that is just unmatched. I mean, it's really all the accoutrements and detail is very good, right down to even how the magazine loads and so on. That's where the fun part for me ends. I'm not happy with the fact that the magazines were both defective, in my opinion. Even though I fixed them, I still call that defective. If it don't work correctly for a customer right out of the box, to me that's defective. You can see a lot of reviews. People complain about these magazines being suspect. Hey, mine was junk. Well, in fact, these were both junk. I think an average customer would have sent these back and thought they got such a pile of crap, but I figured out how to make them work. Even though it works now, I'm still so unsatisfied with some of the problems I've had with it. I just don't really like it. I'm going to keep it. Looks like a nice wall hanger. Looks like a cool real gun. But that's where it ends for me. So other than that, I don't want you to think just because, you know, Viper's got some lame-ass opinion that he didn't like it. If you like it, there's nothing wrong with that. I like a lot of stuff that a lot of you guys don't like. So that's not what I'm trying to say, because I don't believe that I'm any kind of an influencer. I'm just saying my personal opinion is there's some mechanical engineering inherent design flaws, especially where quality is concerned, that I just wouldn't trust this. I don't like the fact that 8 magazines will give me 8 levels of performance. I think it should be a little bit better designed, a little bit better manufactured. But all in all, hey, I got it. It's paid for. It's kind of fun. But like I said, it's going to be a wall hanger. Your mileage may vary. You probably love yours. That's great. But I got a feeling there's a lot of people out there that don't. And they're probably going to be relieved that, hey, even some dumbass like Viper got some pile of crap that he had to work on. And there you go. So I think I'm going to end this video with loading up one more of these magazines and doing some offhand shooting. I don't do enough offhand, and I think I'd like to see if I can actually put these where they belong on the target. So let's give that a try. Okay, so through some weird strapping thing that I used on my wrist once, I have I attached the camera between the upper and lower back by the charging handle, and we're going to see how that works. I have no idea quite how good this is going to work with CO2. You can't really double, triple tap and expect it to keep the same gas and everything, but hey, if I just hit anywhere in the target at all, I guess I'll be happy. So, a minute of paper. And then I will run down here. I think I got like 12 rounds in the mag now. I should be able to hear when it's empty, and then I'll just run down here and quickly reload. But, okay, let me back up here. Okay, so I'm standing back at 30 feet. So let's go. Uh-oh, magazine's crapping out. Hey, it's back to the problem again. Hey, we're right back to the same problem we had before. Or is the CO2 just leaking out of it? All right, emergency, change magazines. Let's see where we're at. Okay, well, seems I still have a problem with this. Okay, well that was kind of fun, and I actually shot better than I thought I would, even under the stress of a malfunctioning weapon. In this case, one of the magazines kind of crapped out. So let me see. God, I just really don't like this whole system. I think it's horrible. So are all my BBs out of there? You know, you got to even be careful looking at stuff like this, because like I said, this literally is a gun. So if you were farting around, please be, if you do have a problem with yours and you're going to fiddle around with these magazines, be careful, because I mean, it's a gun. You see how I use my thumb as the sear on the hammer? Okay, that's actually firing out the front right here. So if in fact I had BBs in there, I mean, Christ almighty, you could put your eye out or worse. Yeah, I know some of you are laughing, don't be a wuss, but I'm telling you, this is just a really shitty design. Yeah, oh there, I got some BBs are still in here, because this is the one that was giving me that trouble. This must have been the one that started to crap out. So let me see if I can, let me try to act like a gun here. Wow. Okay. Woo! See what I mean? This is not a good designed thing. Once again, that's just my opinion. Let me see if I can unload this. Try to make it safe. Make your magazine safe. You can never fully trust that something is completely unloaded, but I can actually see the follower inside of there. So you know, again, you have to look though, that's what the problem, there's no safety on this, except for, of course, you know, it's not. But let's just say the valve all of a sudden went bad, like I know I can push on this and make it go. Whoa, did you hear that? So that's how that works. I just push the hammer down on the valve. So there's still something wrong. Oh, it's just leaking out now. So there's still something wrong with this, and I don't quite know what it is. I'm going to probably get myself all involved in taking this apart and trying to figure out what makes it work. When I have time. I actually don't have time right now, but anyway. In closing, this Hellraiser Hellboy, to me, has been a huge disappointment. The only thing I think it's got going for it is it's just a damn cool looking replica AR-15 M4. So on, but as far as I'm concerned, this whole magazine fiasco is just a frickin' joke. Oh, there we go. Oh, they kind of work, so I don't know, maybe it's something in the trigger mechanism, maybe it's just not snapping it enough. You know, do you have to like really squeeze the trigger hard? Oh God, this whole damn design is just really, I hate it. And I am going to now let you guys go and quit painstakingly gab your ears off, but frankly, I am not happy with this. It works marginally. Again, if this was some really important thing to me, I'd probably be heartbroken, but it does work. Just not well. So, yeah, you draw your own conclusions. You know, think I'm a dumbass, don't know what I'm doing, that's okay. You think I'm smart enough to realize I kind of got a lemon, that's okay too. But it, like I said, in closing, it works. It's fairly accurate for, you know, BB rifle, even when I shot offhand. So I was pretty happy with that. And I was actually kind of breathing heavy because I'm an overweight slob. But all in all, draw your own conclusions. Thank you for tolerating this really long video about the Hellraiser Hellboy that put me through hell. But I hope you learned something. I hope it can help you decide if it's right for you. And that's it. So hey, thanks again for watching.